you've done some pretty big projects. You're talking about like the 5-unit, the 4-unit, but you've done some stuff with retail. You're part of a larger syndication now. When did you start attacking those?
Honestly, it's just constantly learning, trying new techniques and skills, and things didn't really start to change until I understood what hard money was, what construction loans were, and utilizing investors. So that's kind of when things started scaling, and then once I was able to harness that, then the contractors that I were using were only doing my projects now, and once that happened, my timelines were awesome. Welcome to another episode of Straight Up Chicago Investors Podcast. I'm your guest, Erik Swanson. With me, as always, is your host, Tom and Mark.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a good welcome. This guy came in pretty good.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing is, every time he did, he like did his wingspan of like welcome, and his hands went out.
That was almost like church.
It was. Yeah, it was good.
Man, once again, a guest who's way cooler than us.
Oh man, you know
it is a low bar, but we're getting dominated here.
Well, during this episode, I was also thinking about what's his name, Lawrence Dunning. He did the marathon in every single like continent or something like that. It makes you feel like I gotta like pick up my game here to feel.
Yeah, my goals of like, I picked up another flip. They seem small.
Yes. So, yep.
All right, so this is gonna air probably sometime in March, but I just saw over the weekend you guys had a serious work order. Talk to me a little about this thing. Man.
So we managed a 42-unit building in Crystal Lake, and on Saturday it got reported that there was a leak. And again, I don't remember how. I'm not sure how we got notified, but I think the city actually let us know. But it started off as a little tiny hole, and all of a sudden the hole went about 15 feet wide and about 13 feet deep into the middle of the parking lot. And it was a 2.5-inch round pipe, like a little section that was busted. And the crazy part is, city helped totally. I mean, they're overtime. The owner doesn't have to pay for any of that stuff. But what the city really did was help get the supply houses open at Saturday night at 8:00. Like literally, they had to get a guy to get out of bed. By the time this happened, it was later. Go to this place in Aurora, open it. That guy ran it like halfway up Randall Road. My business partner, Brian, he picked it up, took it all the way to Algonquin, and met someone else there from the city. And then they went up there and they put this part in. And that's ultimately what got it. And it was just crazy. Like one little pipe, and the pipe's probably 50, 60 years old at this point, but that one little pipe knocked out water for everyone. And the crazy thing about water is a lot of people are like, yeah, no, I go a day without a shower, but everybody in that building that had to take a crap in that 12 hours, like had to let it just sit there. Like think about that. And if you have 3 or 4 people live in a house, like you had a lot of like crap just sitting in people's toilets. Like that sucks. That's the sucky part about not having water is the toilet part.
Yeah, man, dude, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, but they got it done. So you end up in that situation. The city was all over us, and we still had to have our people come out there, do some of the digging out, had to have the people refill the hole, and so we had to get our guys out there just quick. So really shout out to my team for Chicago's responsive property manager. Like they really crushed it. Like on a crazy night, it was super cold, and they got it solved. And Crystal Lake was super flexible too. Like they're awesome. I tried actually tagging them in that post I made, but they said no public tags, which I can make sense. If you're a city, like you probably don't want anyone to be able to tag you on anything.
Correct.
So, but yeah, crazy problem. And it just blows my mind. 10, 12 feet down, like a little 2-inch pipe, and it just, the amount of chaos that it creates.
Yeah, man, nice work on that.
Yeah, I'll let you know. The big question we have now is there, what will insurance pay for and what won't they pay for? So that's going to be.
Do you guys own this or you just manage this?
We just manage this particular one.
So the owner's sitting here going, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So you gotta redo. So maybe something good come around. The parking lot's a little older. Maybe a large section of that will get picked up by insurance.
All right, good stuff. What's our housing provider tip of the week?
All right. So our housing provider tip of the week is if you are considering selling, if you have a multifamily, especially, reach out to the tenants first, because obviously when you sell, there's a whole bunch of different fees and commissions and all that stuff. But if you reach out to one of your tenants and they have the interest to buy, then you might be able to cut through a lot of that, and especially cut through getting the tenant out, making the place look better again, going on the market. You can cut a lot of time, which will save you money, and then maybe you can save some money on commissions as well too. So right now we have a very tight inventory in the market, and the people that are renting might only be renting because they want to buy something, but they don't have, they can't find anything in the lack of inventory we have as well too. So definitely, if even if you're looking to maybe sell next year, you might reach out and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about selling in the next couple of years. Would you ever have any interest? Because I could make you the first call. So just keep that in mind. Save some money, save some time, save some energy if you ever want to sell. But don't sell. That's a big mistake as well too.
There you go. All right. Our guest today, this took us a few years to get him on here. We're happy he finally came on and joined us. But he is an investor. He flips houses. He's the owner of Navigator Tap Room. Holds his license here at GC Realty. World traveler, musician, just way cooler than us.
Oh, yeah.
And so excited to share all his stories here. So without further ado, Erik Swanson, welcome to the Underground.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I guess I'll start before we even jump into your story. Just a funny anecdote was we had one of our events at Navigator. This is like our 100th episode or whatever. And we're like, let's go check out the place. So I went like on a Tuesday night just to be like.
How do we get referred to Navigator? Start.
I think Windy City REI, or one of the groups that had their
That's right,
meetups
yeah.
there. They referred us in, and I was like, all right, I'll go there I was like, Ash, I'll be home in like, an hour. And Erik and I had never met each other, and we stayed out till like 1 a.m. together, just talking about everything. We became best friends.
In
and like,
life was discussed.
yeah, we became best friends on a Tuesday night.
It was hilarious. We're like, maybe we should go. No, we're not going.
We had a few bro dates since then as well. So
It was good. It was
Good to
a
have you
time.
on mic, though. All right, so
It's awesome to be here.
you have an awesome background. Let's talk about just 18-year-old Erik. Real estate's not on the radar yet, but let's talk about the music background, the touring, like all the cool things and then we'll jump into where real estate fits in here.
Yeah, sure. Starting young, like I was always into music. That was my passion, my drive. That's all I wanted to do. Was on the musician side, and through those channels of being in bands, you start doing different recording studios for albums and things like that. Small stuff, all local, nothing, you're just like, I got $100, let's go to the studio and make a song or whatever you could do, And so the guy who owned the studio took a liking to me because he saw how interested I was and eventually offered me a job. And that's kind of where it began, and it was exciting. I loved just learning everything I could because I didn't know anything. And it kind of escalated from there, from the studio to more of the live sound aspect. And then I realized I can actually go on tour as an audio engineer and see the world and tour with bands that I idolized for my life, And so that's kind of where it started.
Name drop some bands for us.
Oh, man.
Let's do it. The listeners want to know.
There's a lot of cool ones. I would say Aerosmith was one of my favorites. Green Day, Bon Jovi, Kiss, for any old timers out there. I love that one. Just a lot of different bands through the time.
Yeah. Man, this is our first audio engineer we've had on here. He showed up, looked at Lance's equipment. Lance is super nervous right now. We actually have a professional in here to critique him because you and I don't know anything.
On the record, Lance did a great job. He's got it all put together there. Good work, Lance.
So you're living this awesome lifestyle, right? Like every 20-something-year-old's dream for people who grew up in music. What real estate, like how does this enter the picture? Because it doesn't seem very, it's hard to find that Venn diagram here.
No, it was definitely exciting being in your 20s, 30s doing that, but you're gone all the time. You could be gone. There was a point when I was single, gone 11 months out of the year, and tried to do 12, and that was for like 3 years straight. And it was making great money, and you didn't have any bills because everything's paid for, so you're just accumulating cash, and you're like looking around, you're like, I can't do this forever, and you do see older people having kids and families out there, and you see families, fall apart, and it is an awesome, exciting time, but there comes a point where you realize I don't know if I can do this forever. And so you start looking for alternatives. And really what began this walk was just constantly reading books. And like I had friends that were, because you get a lot of downtime out there doing shows, because it's like 16-hour days from when you load in, basically putting a city together in a day and taking it down. And so you do have some bits of downtime, and we utilize that time just reading constantly, like financial books, getting our mindset changed, and then it became more real estate driven. And honestly, you just get so filled with knowledge that you're just ready to do something, you know? And so that's really where it started. And out there, I didn't really know anybody in the real estate business. But when I'd come back home, I got an agent, and I'm like, I need multifamily building.
Are you from Chicago?
Yeah.
Like you grew up in the city, suburbs? Or?
A few different places, but mainly in the city, yeah. Grew up off of Belmont, lived in River Grove, Elmwood Park area, and then majority of the time was Chicago. But I lived some other places prior to that.
All right, what were some of those books, right? Is this like the typical, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
It is, it really is. Man. And honestly, the first one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that one just was the mind shift change for me. And I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and it was a quick, easy read. And then it just started moving on to other financial books. It was a lot of like commodities back when I was starting, like in silver, and just understanding why the crash was happening and understanding all these different aspects of why the market was going where it was. This was like 2008-ish, you know?
Yep. All right, so you come home, you pick up an agent, and talk to us about that buying process.
It was a different time from what it is now, because there was a lot of available properties for a really great price. And you can utilize FHA and 203K construction loans at that period because there was so many foreclosures. And I didn't realize how amazing that time was. I wish I knew what I know now then, because I would have never stopped buying. I would have asked every person for every single
Throw
penny.
some prices for what you saw in the market then in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, so this was in West Logan. I bought a 3-unit building for $250,000, and it needed minimal rehab. It was turnkey, but it wasn't up to date. And I mean, I already had them rented out. I used the 203K. It was a smaller rehab. It was like $25,000 that I just got everything up to code. And then I utilized the basement just as like my storage unit because I was tired of paying for storage. That's really where it started. I was just tired of having a storage unit. And I was like, well, I'm not going to live there, so I don't want to pay rent. And so I was like, for me, it was always, how can I live for free? You know, because we were doing such a great job of it on the road. You get used to having all your expenses paid or having food paid. So that was always in my mind, like, I want to keep that. And I want to so this was like a great opportunity to purchase a single family or a three-unit multifamily for an extremely good price. And I thought that was okay then. Like, I didn't realize, like, this is awesome. And there was no one fighting me, like, in negotiations. Like, it was a straight, here's my 203, FHA 203K loan that no one even scoffed at, instead of
$75,000 a unit.
Yeah, and it was 5,000 down. It was insane. It was great.
So this one goes well. You have your basement unit, which you're using, loading your stuff in. What happens next?
So, and the purchase went well, but there's always, once you start having tenants and things like that, there's always something happen. And everyone knows the saying, it's always something. And it really is always something. I was just enjoying having a free place to put my stuff. So it was going great. Then I realized I was making money doing it too. I'm like, oh, this is really nice. And it's paying the mortgage. I'm like, wait, there's something here, So I wanted to, you get back to work, and that active cash flow is so huge. Like, everyone's always like, I want passive income, which is awesome. But there's so much strength with active income too. And it's, as long as you're in that mindset of utilizing that active income for investments, instead of like, oh, now I got a bunch of money, now I got to go buy a boat, now I got to go buy a new car, I need to go buy this and this, and all the new TV and a new video game system. There's a lot of things you can spend your money on, but getting to the point of using that active income to like subsidize all your bills, I think, is step one for me. It was in my head. So we started looking at other properties after this. And that's when I purchased a 5-unit, also, relatively affordable, but it was years later. So it took me some time to be like, I want to keep doing this. And so once that happened, I moved into the 5-unit, and I did the rehab, and I loved doing the rehab. It's like, you get to learn so much stuff about electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry. So you get to do so much cool stuff, and it's yours. It's like you get a chance to be a part of it and know what it takes to build it. And I think that was such a core learning thing for me, and respecting other people's work. So I didn't realize what it was doing then to what it did now, as I see job sites and construction, how important and valuable doing those small little tasks, even like the detail, once you go to finishing a property, it's just like you do so much work and you feel like nothing's getting done, but it's all these small little things. And I'm not in there like yelling at contractors. It's like, I get it, like it takes a while to get it looking done.
Yeah, you bring that up all the time. The last 10% of the project is 50% of the time. It's so tough.
Where was the 5 flat at?
That was in Belmont Cragen. Yeah. It's the little, near Fullerton and...
No, why there? You buy first. Why'd you buy your first place in Logan? Why'd you move a little west to Belmont? Where's your mindset?
Honestly, it was pricing for what I was getting. I think I bought that 5-unit for $450,000. And it was just immediately cash flowing before I did anything. So it was just, it was good. It was awesome. And that building eventually did get shot up in a drive-by.
There you go.
That I eventually did sell. But it was a weird area. It was a good area, actually. But the streets that house was on was the actual border of 3 gangs. So that, whatever reason, that house was picked on.
You said by Fullerton and Central?
Yeah.
So that's like by Hanson Stadium there, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep, the other side. I was on the north side of Fullerton.
Yep.
But it was like, we don't have to get too much into that, but that was interesting.
So
Did you, hold on, I got a question though. You owned the building when they had the drive-by. Did you go plug the holes? Like, how'd you handle that? Because a lot of people are like, I'm not, it doesn't make sense for me to go plug the holes. I just might as well leave them there. I'm like, nah, there's more of a perception here. Like, you gotta can't look like the house that got shot up.
Oh yeah, no, it was a learning experience. It was Christmas Eve too. So I was there super early, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Cops show up. My poor tenant.
How'd you find out? Like, how'd that work order come in, or how'd that text come over?
Well, one of my tenants that 3 of the bullets went through her bedroom window while she was sleeping, and she has holes in her ceiling. She's the one that called me and was like, hey, this is not good. And I had cameras and stuff too. So we still have video footage, and then we have footage inside of cars from cameras in the cars. And so we seen the whole thing play out. It was pretty wild. But we had to get people there, board up the windows, get those windows replaced, definitely, fill up the holes and patch up inside too. And, we have to get new blinds, and it was an interesting experience. And I eventually did sell that property, 5-6 months later. I was just like, but it was a good time to sell as well. So it was kind of the market was on a rise, and people loved it. So, it wasn't a bad area. It was just that.
Were you living there at the time?
No, I wasn't living there. I had lived there at one point though, but that was years later.
Talk to us about going back to the rehab, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either just that overall experience, any funny stories from that, anything that jumped off that went wrong, because
Oh my God.
there's so many people that get scared to jump in. Meanwhile, like we have Lance right now living without a vanity and is gutting his own basement right now.
Absolutely. I mean, so my girlfriend at the time was in school for anesthesia, and she had 1 week off, and it's an insane time. And I'm like, hey, I just bought this new building and we're moving in it. She's like, no, No, I'm like, we're moving. And so I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna be beautiful. I'm rehabbing the whole place. Got a new kitchen, new bathroom. Man, my timeline was because I was working full time at my job, and like it was just endless stuff. And and so we move in, and there's still dust on the floor. I just put a rag down. I'm like, bring the boxes in, put them on here, and there was no toilet in the bathroom. There was no tile in the shower. So she moves in, and it's like now at like 3 a.m, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened with the movers. That one of the guys broke his leg, and now we're down to one guy moving all this stuff, and they were like hours late, and they literally got done around 1 a.m. And then she's like, we have to put a toilet in. And I'm like, it's
fair.
fine. I'm like, no, I was fighting it. I'm like, no, we're not doing a toilet tonight. No. And so at like 2 a.m, there we were putting a toilet in and taking it out the next day to finish the tile in the bathroom. So it was interesting. You just gotta make it happen sometimes.
Oh, I love the scrappiness. So, all right. So at this point, like real estate starts to click, right? Like you go and buy a 5-unit building. I'd say at that point, like we are serious. We're in the game. Is that where your mindset is at? Like, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
So at that point, a big like time period was actually launching Navigator. So around that same time is when we decided to go in and really launch Navigator, which was
For our listeners, Navigator Tap Room. Give us the 30-second rundown.
Sure. Navigator Tap Room is a bar in Logan Square. It's a self-pour tap room where you can start a tab and start pouring your own beers and try a bunch of different selections, from cocktails to wines to from lights to darks. It was a great concept. It still is. But when we were starting, this wasn't out there. So this was like a very new thing. And actually the system there was like a beta test. And that's the first actual, that system installed somewhere. So I love the tech behind it all. I love the business model. I liked that this was scalable. Everything could be tracked. Everything could be counted. And it was also, because originally we wanted to start a brewery, but the market was so oversaturated. So we're like, let's step back from that and let's showcase all the breweries. So now we had this great system that could showcase what everybody in Chicago was doing, what the Midwest was doing, and from around the world. And so we went out and we looked for investors, and we raised quite a bit of money, which was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. And also trying to sell or get investors to believe in us that we can make this successful, because this wasn't a proven model at that time.
What's the pro forma look like? Like that's
Yeah.
like in apartments, it's very easy, right? Rents will be this, expenses will be this. Like this,
Oh, absolutely.
a lot more gray area, a lot of unclarity.
Well, there are parts of it, like what you're purchasing to what you're selling is, pretty, you can calculate that. And then there's also, really comes down to what type of traffic you're going to get into the space.
How do you predict that? Like that's
It's a lot of talk and a lot of market research, going around, talking to general managers, owners of what's around you, talking to other markets and see what they were doing, who were kind of doing similar models. It wasn't easy. And it's, now we have, and we were looking to expand because we had all those metrics. We built all the systems. So it was all systematized. It was we could kind of copy paste. And we did have investors in different markets, and we were excited, and then 2020 hit and COVID hit, and it really deflated and took a lot of steam out of trying to make that into, multiple places, because we just didn't foresee what was to come. And it was very hard. And I think Chicago, that whole scene, the restaurant, the hospitality industry still truly hasn't fully come back. And people think we're done with COVID, but it still has affected all the restaurants still.
How did you get through COVID? I mean, a lot of people did move from downtown more out to places like Logan. Like, did that help at all? Like,
Oh, it was terrible.
how long were you shut down for? Let's start there.
It was all terrible. I'm surprised I still have some hair left. So for COVID, it shut down, and it was like St. Patrick's Day weekend. Yeah. So we had a ton of reservations, and things were going extremely well. My business partner, Tim, ran the place great. I mean, we were packed out all the time. He's got that gift to like bring people in, he's this very social person. And so we're now canceling all these reservations, and we just think it's going to be the weekend. And we were like upset. We're like, I can't believe we're canceling these weekends, and then it turns into a week, and then it turns into like a month, and we're like, oh, and then we see all the baseball games canceling and all the tours canceling. We're like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Oh, we're shutting down. And so, yeah, we had to pivot. We were doing to-go beers, and a lot of breweries supported it. Like, they just gave us growlers, and we were just selling, because we had all these kegs now. We just were stocked up for St. Patrick's Day. We had like 100 kegs in our cooler, and we're like, we got to get rid of it. It's going to go bad. And so, and it worked out well. I mean, we sold all of it. We actually had to start buying more again.
How long does a keg of beer last? Just curious.
Depends on who you have with you. No.
No, if you just sat there. I'm not saying if you're
In high school, or one night.
$5 a cup.
Yeah.
3 for the ladies.
Yeah. And you were a gentleman.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good move. It can be a week or 2 weeks. It depends on, we have 48 taps, so that could be.
If it sits closed, how long does that last?
Like
you guys had all these
It'd
ones.
probably be like 3 months for like the hoppier beers. Your Belgians and your lighter beers can probably go a little longer. Your dark beers as well, but those hoppier ones, the more expensive stuff, they can go in like 3 months ish.
Just curious.
Yeah.
It's our teaser clip right there.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point too, do you have rehabs going on? Like, do you have like real estate projects going on too, or no?
Yeah. Oh, during COVID.
April 2020, right?
Oh,
like,
yes.
because that's another thing. Like, I have very clear memories of this. Of I'm paying these hard money loans. My guys can't work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, you have tenants. You don't know what's happening with them. Like, I remember like that
It
was.
takes forever to get in and out of Home Depot, even if you do get there.
I just remember like that was a very. COVID ended up being very good for the real estate industry, but like those 6 weeks were not fun.
It was terrible. Like,
the unknown was like the scariest part of it all. Like, you didn't know how long that was going to be. I can only imagine for you where that was your lifeline of people walking into your door.
and yeah, absolutely. And we still have all our fixed bills. Like, that's not stopping.
Did you go to your landlord? Like, how'd that?
We eventually did. We kind of discussed our situation. We didn't just be like, hey, we need free rent. We presented everything very formally and like, hey, this is where we're at. We have to do something. And they were completely understanding and, gave us 6 months, and then we reevaluated, and then we ended up paying them once we picked up again. And it worked out well in that case. Best case scenario, because I know some people did not get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, during that time, yeah, I was doing a rehab, a 4-unit. It was completely gutted at the time, and I was still working in the music industry, but locally. And so I was managing a 100,000 square foot like warehouse and the engineering department side, and I had to lay off 25 guys that are all like this is their careers. They all have families. This is their life, and we went down to maybe having 70 people in that warehouse to 5, and we had to pick up what we were doing, So it was like Navigator, shut down, doing to-goes, the music warehouse shut down, no more tours, and then we're just doing like live streaming things, and there's like 5 of us, and then we have a rehab that's going, that we're like in it, and my construction loan didn't get approved for what I needed at that time either, so I'm trying to figure out other ways to get funds, whether it's credit cards or personal loans. Didn't realize the effect, once you do that, like your credit goes down. And now when you go to refi, that's where kind of it gets a little dicey. Was able to pay off the construction loan through some other, personal funds and figured that out. But it was interesting. It makes you get creative for solutions.
Yeah. Was there a specific point or like a specific date or an event where you're like, all right, I made it, right? Like, or is it just gradual and you're like, oh shit, we did it?
Coming out of COVID.
Coming out of like that funk.
I do remember it was like a November and they just reopened everything and it was like pulling the pin out of a grenade and everybody came out. Like they were tired of being at home. They didn't want to be at home and it was awesome. Everyone's like overly chatty. Everyone wants to hang out. They can't wait to socialize. And I remember that time going like, is this it? Did we do it? Are we out? And, sales were great again. So we were like, okay. And then, a couple months later, then they shut it down again. So it's like, you didn't know when it was coming next.
Mm. And then what about the real estate side of things? Because we were kind of dancing around, but you've done some pretty big projects, right? Like you're talking about like the 5 unit, the 4 unit, but you've done some stuff with retail. You're part of a larger syndication now. Like you've done some bigger, sexier things. Like when did you start attacking those?
So I remember that being a pretty good shift in my mind. And actually just learning, honestly, it's just constantly learning, trying new techniques and skills. And things didn't really start to change until I understood like what hard money was, what construction loans were, and utilizing investors' capital and getting them great returns. Because at some point, like I actually just love the whole process. So I'm not trying to be overly greedy about a return or something. Like for me, I'd rather have 5 projects making less money and getting investors paid that they're like, okay, this is awesome. I want to keep going. I want to keep doing this. And instead of me making a few $1,000s more, I'd rather investors be excited about the project and getting awesome returns. So that's kind of when things started scaling. And then once I was able to harness that, then the contractors that I were using were only doing my projects now. And once that happened, my timelines were awesome. Like it was no more other like little random projects where people are gone for a week or whatnot. I think we were doing 8 buildings at once one year, and not all from starting at the same time, but all in their different parts of the phase. And having the contractors was awesome. And that's really when I started to scale. Yeah. And I don't know if we can drop Renovo, but Renovo and Eric Workman have been a fantastic partner. Just even with Eric and his professionalism, and then the draw system, being able to not wait weeks to just see capital that you need to be purchasing materials with, things like that. So they were awesome partners. And then as it started scaling, you just constantly keep meeting more people, keep networking, and it's just networking. And then now we're under contract on a 63 unit in Louisville, and we're getting ready to close on that. And that was, a good amount of money to raise, things like that. So it was.
You've raised money in 2 different industries, for the restaurant and then for real estate. Mm-hmm. You made it. You said it was difficult, but like, what were some of the challenges? Like, It sounds like this is like
it's the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
I did it for the first time last year, and I was surprised of like, oh damn, it's harder than I thought. Like, what would you take away? I guess.
I think.
And where you at today with it? And
sure.
Like, how do you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Doing Navigator and raising money for Navigator, at that point, people weren't investing necessarily in the model, but I felt like they trusted me and were investing in what they knew I was going to be able to do. And so, because it's hard to, and we thought people were just going to give us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we could just go to the SBA, and the SBA is going to be like, of course we're going to give you money. Yeah, we love giving small business money. No. They didn't even look twice at us unless you already have a successful business and you've already done it multiple times. And we've went through multiple rounds of SBA, nothing. And then it was friends and family, and it was $10,000 here, $50,000 here, another $25,000 here. And those were all very significant money, that came into our bank account, and nothing's ever invested until it is in your bank. You can earmark things all day, but until that money transfers over, don't count on it. But it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. It's just stressful. And, you're getting ready to sign a lease and you don't even have enough money, and you're getting ready to build. And now and then you have another investor that just decided it's not for him. And now you have $100,000 that you need to raise in 3 days, and it's like, okay.
And you're doing it. That was before COVID, so it was probably a little more friendly. But you did a lot of it just past COVID as well too. So I imagine the uncertainty.
Yeah. So that was 2015, 2016 when we were raising for Navigator.
So that was the first, okay.
Yeah, and then raising for the real estate side of things, I think is a little bit different because there's a tangible asset that they can see that it's a proven model time and time again. It's just really making sure you're getting the right project, the right asset to invest in. And, I didn't really understand in the beginning, like people would invest like, oh, you haven't done 5 projects already. I'm like, so I've done 2. And so now I get it. I'm like, oh, 5. I mean, there's a significant thing I think you learn from project 3 to 5 too. And you constantly still learning. But I didn't understand it at the time. I'm like, well, let us know when you have 5 done. And I'm like, okay. But you do find people that trust you, see what you've already been doing. And regardless, like if we lose any money, it's going to be my money. I'm okay with losing my money. Just I'm not okay with losing friends, family, and investors' money. And so that's a big part of it. And when it was all my money, I was a little bit riskier and was able to take chances that I learned a lot from. Thankfully they all succeeded, and I wasn't like in a pit I couldn't dig out of. But those were all great learning experiences, and you're never gonna have it all figured out. It's just like you can run the numbers, you can run all the spreadsheets, you're just never gonna have it all figured out. You just have to do it. You have to do it, and then you gotta have confidence in yourself that you can figure out the problems as they come. Because they will always come, they will keep coming, they're never gonna stop coming. If there's one thing you're good at, is just figuring out problems, because they're always gonna be coming. And don't make a big deal. Like, I remember like what I thought was a big deal, I'm like, oh my God, I can only, like my first one, I'm like, well, they'll only allow me to have 5 loans, so I can only do 5 properties. And that's what I think of my first one as I was looking for future, and I didn't realize that's the least of my worries. Like there's going to be funding out there. There's multiple ways to invest, and it's really partnering with people at some point. That's when it actually feels good. Like the load's lighter. You can rely on other people, qualified people, and that all have the same vision, and you can kind of bounce stuff off of each other.
So what I heard from you though is people are investing in you more so than the project a lot of times. Like they're investing their level of confidence in you.
Yes.
How do you, if you're asking for money, how do you portray that confidence? How do you ooze that confidence that people are like, I'm confident in him?
I think a lot of it stems to just how you're living your day, and letting people see you take accountability for your mistakes and showing them that you have a backbone and you can, okay, that was a mistake. This is what I did. This is why I did it. This is what the results were. And they'd rather see you make a mistake and own it than try to cover it up and say it was something else. They look at that as like a backbone, and at least you have some pride and honor in what you're doing. And so I would say that with the Navigator side, that's kind of what they knew I would do everything I could to make it succeed. And we had the right teams. Also with my business partner, I mean, we had a strong team. We have a strong team. So we were able to, we knew we could not fail and we would not fail. And we had contingencies. I mean, if we'd lost everything, like I wouldn't sleep until like they got paid back.
I love that. That translates. I was talking to somebody earlier today actually about Google reviews. You got a business, right? So you could have, for us, we have 700 Google reviews, 650 are 5-star. No one looks at the 5-star.
No,
It's
right to the 1-star.
People go right to the 1-star.
Absolutely.
I do it myself, and that's where a company's character comes out, is how you're responding to those.
100%.
And you kind of said that as far as when you make mistakes. I think mistakes are great, and that gives you the most opportunity to be able to display your character.
100%. I mean, the mistakes are the teacher. That is the true lesson. And because you never forget that, and you constantly think of, why did that happen? How did that happen? What could have made it differently for me to not have gone down that road? And being able to, it just makes you stronger, because those mistakes are the hard learning things that you have to learn.
Yeah, we've brought it up several times now, but if you have all your experience versus all your net worth, and if one of them were to disappear tomorrow, which one would you want to disappear? Right? Like I'd rather lose everything and still have my experience and capabilities and mindset of like, okay, this is how to do it. Like if you lost the how to do it, like you woke up the next day and didn't know anything.
I was talking about this.
Like the money doesn't mean like you're stuck.
True.
I was talking about that this morning too. It's like, all right, so GC's been around for 22 years. It's like, all right,
Congrats.
so it took me 22 years
That's
to
awesome.
get here. If I had to, if I lost all the money and lost everything, I had to go start new. Like you could probably do that in 5 years. You probably get back to that point in 5 years based on everything you're saying. You have all the pitfalls, all the mistakes you made.
Sure.
Like that's what we all have. And that's why, whether it be reading books or learning, like no one can ever steal that from you. No one can ever take that from you.
Yeah.
If I did have the option to keep those skills at 25,
Yeah, there you
I
go.
would go down that route.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think about like you're talking about picking up that Logan property. It's like, man, I like so many things. Like you could have just bought buildings. It was so easy. It's so easy. Just buy a building and let it double.
I run into that issue sometimes with when I work with Lance. Like I could guide him through a lot of stuff, my mistakes, but it's like some of those things, like I gotta let him kind of feel some of that pain on some
Gotta
things.
feel the pain.
Just because like he'll go do something else twice as big, I'm not involved, not realize like the mistake that I realized already, and then he goes fucks up something really big.
Yeah,
so like
it's true.
that's some of the guardrails I try to like put there when I'm working.
And
with
those mistakes are like small things that can just take you down a path that is far off from where you need to be.
Yeah.
And you learn them the hard way, and it's,
Well, because you always remember that feeling.
Yep.
You remember that shitty feeling after you made a dumb mistake, or the contractor left with your $1,000, or the wake up realizing all the shit in hindsight that you didn't see about a problem you have now.
Yeah.
Like that, you remember that feeling.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so
Absolutely.
what's next for you? You got a lot going on here. You just talked about you have a major syndication. Like what's the next couple of years look like for Mr. Erik Swanson?
I think about that a lot. I want to dedicate a lot more time into larger assets, larger properties, and really capital raising, connecting people with projects. As I mentioned with Navigator, that was like the hardest thing in my mind I ever did. And I wanted to learn because it was something I didn't know, so that's why it was stressful. It was hard. So at that time I decided, okay, well, you know what? I'm just gonna start reading about it, listen to podcasts about it. And then you just slowly start getting that information in you. And then it's easier to understand the terms, and it's easier to understand the concepts. And now it's, when you go to raise money, it's not as hard as it was. It's always going to be a deadline. There's always going to be some sort of stress, but it's how you manage that stress, and don't let that stress take over you. You got to figure out ways to leave that work. And that's a learning process in itself. And that's all the growing parts of it. And also, you know, I work remotely quite a bit, so I'm not able to be at places and job sites. So you got to build in systems to understand. You got to be able to have people to rely on, because otherwise you will just stress out.
It is amazing how you do that. Like I never know you to be in town.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah, I don't know if you want. I mean, we could cut this if you want, but like, you've been to like 100 countries or something crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, we talk about wanting to travel. Like, this guy's figured it out.
Well, I don't tell many people. No, I'm telling it on a podcast now.
But we have listeners. We can cut this if you want.
Okay, you can decide. But no, I'd like to visit every country in the world by the end of next 3 years. So that's my goal. So
how many countries are there?
196.
Oh, that's it. Not saying that's it. No,
All right, just do one a day and you got
think
this
there'll be a
thing.
lot more than that. Okay, so
Well, if you do one country
backed into
for do 2 weeks per country, it would take you about 8 years.
are there any countries like you just like are scared to go to, or like are you putting those to the end? Like
No, I think each one has its own challenge. There's a couple countries I actually can't get into, but we're working on things to do to get into those.
so you're actually trying to solve like ways to get it. Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. So we'll see.
You have awesome problems.
Yeah.
Like,
It has its own issues, you know, of keeping and working remotely though. Everything has to be very streamlined while traveling, and then also internet is a major thing. So
we really take that for granted here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you 100% need it. And T-Mobile is actually coming up with. I'm actually going to T-Mobile after this because they're having a phone that connects to Starlink now. That comes out in June.
Ooh, that's nice.
So that's going to be a game changer. So I'm actually going to go there and check that out. But we have all kinds of hotspots and Starlink satellites and things like that. But it's also you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go leave now and travel and have a business. It takes years to like set up the systems. You got to you've got to have done all the legwork and the foundational work and make sure that you have people you can trust. Either you're paying them or you have different partnerships or whatever, and that there is an understanding of goals of what you're trying to do.
We have a lot of listeners who travel. What's probably like the biggest mistake you would say, like, hold on, don't do this?
As in,
for someone who's done this successfully and has
Trying to
spent
run
a
the
ton of
business.
time traveling while running the business, looking back, saying like, hold on a second, like, this is like your biggest thing you need to watch out for.
I imagine you got like make sure you have enough value in your partnerships, because like the image of, or the perceived image that you're traveling around the world and you're not here physically doing stuff, that's something you have to overcome, or make sure you have demonstrate your value.
sure, absolutely. So there's definitely that aspect. So the number one thing I would say if you're traveling is don't let anything stop you from traveling. I don't care what it is. If that's your goal, you figure out the backward motion of what needs to be figured out at home to do that. Because there is a finite time that you're going to be able, in your age or whatever your ability to go climb a mountain, will eventually, you're not going to have those luxuries of youth. And so whatever it is, you just have to go. Like, figure it out.
I imagine that's a muscle that you've had to build up over the years of like, you probably sat there like, I probably shouldn't go because blank.
100%. That, absolutely. I could talk myself out of anything that it's so easy to stay home. I get so much stuff done at home. It takes a lot of energy and planning and strategic movement to leave and not just using it, because it's funds that's not like, it's like investing too. I'm not just using my capital. I have ways of funding the traveling portion too, like whether that be through passive income through units or renting out our place if we're gone for 11 months or something like that. And we did Furnish Finder and rented out my actual house. That's it's 4 levels. I live in 2, and then we rent out the other 2, the duplex, and that actually pays the mortgage. And so that allows us to actually live free. But then when we rent out our unit, now
Travel money.
now that's all travel money. And when you're out there, like, rental cars are super cheap. I mean, not in Europe and places like that, but you go to South America, you go to Central America, or in Asia. I mean, you can get rental cars for like $9 a day. It's insane. Like, the pricing of especially with Airbnb, it's not expensive when you're out there.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. We good to wrap?
Good to wrap.
Let's do it.
All right. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do so much awesome stuff while others wish they could?
I think it's all truly is setting goals. You have to know what you want and what is actually of value to you, and then work your way back from that. And don't let anything stop you, because everything is literally going to tell you and try to stop you from doing it. Like, it doesn't matter. And yourself especially. It almost feels like nothing wants you to move forward sometimes.
Yeah. All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
Utilize that active income you have, save it till you have enough, and find the property. It might not be the best deal, but at some point you just have to do it. And if that's your goal, you just have to make it happen. And there's always time in the future to refinance into a better loan, a cheaper interest rate. But owning the asset now, it's going to appreciate, and there's always time to refinance to make it a better deal. But what you're going to learn in it is the most valuable part of it.
What do you do for fun?
My top thing to do is going scuba diving and just traveling, any adventure. Like, I won't say no to anything.
All right. Give us either a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to our listeners.
I recommend anything that you're interested in, whether that is traveling or finance or commodities. Just get podcasts and just listen to them while you're driving, wherever it is. Turn the music off and just keep getting all that inspiration, all that knowledge, all that wealth of experience from seasoned professionals. And it's just going to fill you up and allow you you want to make moves.
Other than yourself, name a valuable resource to Chicago real estate investors.
Eric Workman, again, with Renovo. He is a professional. He is also well-seasoned in this and can help you navigate if you are unfamiliar with the territory on, what that looks like. And having a lending partner is just absolutely massive, that you can build a relationship with and go through these processes with is huge.
Yeah, if you're going to scale on the construction side, it's a necessity.
It is,
right? Like,
an awesome tool. It is
absolutely.
It is the only way I have found kind of what I have been doing.
Cool. All right, Eric, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
So for me, I'm always interested in partnering with people, whether it be on the construction side or help funding in a joint venture, or if someone has deals, I love getting involved in any aspect of it where I can show value and make something happen.
A deal junkie like myself.
Yes.
And rent Navigator for your next event.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do tons of events at Navigator, and that's one of our main things that we've kind of excelled in. So if you got any parties or events, we can do it.
All right. We have our Chicago Fact. Who are we playing for? Who's sponsoring?
All right, we're playing for Michael Berry, who left us a comment on YouTube. And our sponsor today is Das Law. So be back, Das.
All right, perfect. I went with the traveling. This is going to be a total guess, I believe.
198.
That doesn't
How many
have
countries in the world?
that doesn't have a Chicago tie to it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, so sister cities. So when a city has a sister city, it's to promote cultural and commercial ties. Chicago has how many official sister cities? And your options are 3, 9, 17, or 28?
I feel like you've asked this question before.
Nah.
Okay. I'm going with 17.
28.
28 it is.
I knew it was high because you asked this question before.
I did not ask this question before. Well, then you probably should have gotten it.
I knew it was high. I just knew it was high.
I was gonna do a Logan one, like about the boundaries, and I was like, I think I've asked this one with Luke before. So.
That was strictly a good guess.
All right, awesome. I was not going to not let you do 28 because I knew it was a higher number because you asked this question before.
All right, if a listener can call us out, we'll give you another $100 gift card from BBEC. You can find this question in another episode.
All right. Michael Berry, you get $50 gift card brought to you by Das Law. So that was awesome. So Eric, thanks for coming on. Tom, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
If you're listening, please give us a quick 5-star review. If you're watching this, subscribe and leave a comment. Both of them will get you into the hat for your name to be drawn to be part of the Chicago Facts. So thanks for coming on. Thanks as always. Listeners, we'll see you next week.